Let's go. I could do that. Not to worry. Ooh, sir. Well, welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Nyasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I appreciate that. Joining me today on this off weekend, this small haven of peace before we get into the flyaway races in a couple weeks. I'm here with my brother, your brother, everyone's brother, Cameron F1. How's it going?
I'm all right, sir. I'm all right. I'm good.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, blessed and highly favored.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And that means you at home. If you're watching, looking at this video, listening to this in your headphones, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. And if you're listening to us, give us a 5-star review. Yeah, give us a 5-star review on Apple. We've gone past 300 ratings on Spotify, which is awesome. Thank you so much. Let's get to 500. The journey doesn't stop. Let's keep going. But I do appreciate every last one of you. And finally, if you like F1 merchandise, make sure you head over to quickstopf1.com. You can get one of the many teas we have on there, including what I felt was apt today, which is my black F1 Twitter.
Let's go. Let's go. How do you mean? How do you mean?
You know what? Yeah. I think some people think we're their friend. Speaking of which, Cameron, before I get into it, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who bought a Quick Stop Live ticket. We sold that shit out in 4.5 hours. For context, the first event sold out in 36 hours. So we did that in a ninth of the time.
I mean, come on. We have to get some proper air hornage on the go for that, surely. Now let's get the proper one on it.
You got it. This.
Can you hear it?
No.
Oh my gosh.
But look, I can't hear anything, but I'm sure that they were really good air horns. I take your word for it. But look, guys, thank you so much for everyone who's coming. November 20th. It's going to be an incredible event again. I guess it's maybe the last event we're going to do at that venue, seeing as the demand seems to be outstripping the supply. But also, I feel like we might do one more there before we advance. I don't want to rush. I don't want to rush too much. See, some people, you get the bright lights of like more seats, you think more money, but it's bigger expenses. Like Jay-Z said, don't know my expenses, I have to buy bigger plates. So, Cameron.
Yo.
Before, I've got a little game I'd like to play with you today.
Let's go for it.
But before we get into that, on the last podcast. Oh yeah, by the way, shout out to Tandy, who is currently in Greece.
Let's go, Tandy.
That's why she's not here today. She skipped out on the Queen's funeral and went to Greece. So enjoy that, Tandy. How unpatriotic of you. I'm joking, but she is in Greece. Cameron, you see, you made that worse by the face you pulled. I'm not gonna lie.
What face did I pull?
No face, no case. So
no paper, no proof.
No, exactly right.
Don't know what you're on about. R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth II.
R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth for sure. It was a beautiful ceremony.
They went in, didn't they?
They went
in. The brief time that I watched it, it was It was an event.
How much did you watch? Well, I watched it from like when they were outside the church until they went in, and then like a bit of that, and then I was like, this is just like songs of praise.
Yeah, I want to say I watched maybe about 20 minutes worth.
Okay.
So if I'd had time, I would have watched it all. I'll tell you what I was more transfixed by.
Yeah.
The queue of people going in to say their final farewells. That had me. I was watching that for hours yesterday. It was yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Let's have a quick conversation on this.
Let's go.
How do I approach this? I am, let's say, not a royalist.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
And I must say I viewed as it's now known as the queue, with, let's say, some cynicism. Yesterday, I sat down with a cup of tea, as you do in the morning. I sat down with a cup of tea, opened Twitter, and I read a thread of someone who was going into the queue with their mum. And they detailed this whole experience, 24 hours, I think, they were in this queue for. And the little insights about it. At one point, she's like, I was desperate for a cup of tea, and then her mum gave her a cup of tea, and then, you know, the camaraderie in the group. And it did make me oddly, I wouldn't say proud to be British, but there were just certain, you know what, there's things about being British which only British people can understand. And queuing in central London for 24 hours.
It's a very British thing.
Do you know what I mean? It's such a British thing.
Yeah,
craving a tea o'clock at 7 o'clock in the morning is such. I would be the same. I would be like, I need a tea right now. Like, I don't know how, you know. And so there is just something about, I don't ever really feel pride about being British, other than
snap.
Right, you know, I would probably say I'm Black British more than I am British, and I identify with the culture that Black Britain has given Britain more than Britain itself. But there are, obviously, by the way, you can tell by the way I talk, you know, the way I act, and, you know, I am very much British. So it's interesting, isn't it? Like, what invokes feelings of pride in one's country. We're a silly nation. We're a silly nation that tries to act serious, but we are very silly. How I describe
and self-deprecating. Honestly,
Yeah.
Nyasha, I think you've nailed it, bro. I've got nothing to add. I think it's not dissimilar to you, mate. It's rare that I find myself feelings of patriotism, but watching the funeral and the way that people have conducted themselves, the long queues, I don't know, there was something in there, whatever you want to call it, whatever signifier you want to put on that, whatever terms you want to give it, there was it evoked feelings.
It did evoke, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it evoked feelings of patriotism. And I want to say it's more, you know what it's like, the queue. You know in X Factor when Dermot used to be outside the venue talking to the man? And he would be talking, and he'd be like, who are you? And he's like, oh, my name's Dwayne from Wrexham. I'm going to be the next big pop star.
There's a camaraderie in it, Nyasha.
That's the thing, right? There's a camaraderie. There's a sense of hope. There's a sense of belonging that and the thing is, to go back into it, and maybe I'll link this to F1, we don't have that in this country, right? This country is a broken country. There's nothing great about Britain. There's nothing united about the United Kingdom. You know, it's a broken country. And we can't all even get behind the greatest of all time, right?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Like,
unless it's Silverstone.
Unless it's...
I was, yeah, true, mate. Yeah. Lost in the roundings there, Nash. I was going to say, I was going to link it to Silverstone.
Yeah.
Kind of when I see the British flags around Silverstone and the purples and the luminous caps, that those two things were there were parallels between the two for me.
Yeah, for sure. The caps were I think great marketing, but
Also.
But yes, the support he has and the love he gets at Silverstone, and yeah, the British flags and just how rowdy we are. You can audibly hear the British crowd, right?
And there goes Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah,
telling you,
right? You know, and
goosebumps.
There are certain things, but yeah, it's been a weird day. I'm not gonna lie, it has been a strange day in the UK. But look, whilst we're on Silverstone, quickly.
Oh mate,
you're a capitalist.
Don't do that, Nyasha. I'm not like that. I'm not.
No, you're not. No. But you're a money man. Yeah.
try to do.
Let me play devil's advocate for once, and then you can be. Oh my god! Then you can be the hero.
Let's
right?
go. Let's go for it.
Silverstone has introduced dynamic pricing for this year's Grand Prix. I think they've broken away from Ticketmaster. They've brought everything in-house, but they've got a supplier, obviously, for the IT side of what they're doing. The reason for that being is that they want to move to dynamic pricing. Now, if you don't know what dynamic pricing is when the cost of the product that you want to buy will increase or decrease based on demand for that product and or scarcity of said products. For example, when you go and order an Uber and you're in city centre at 3 o'clock at night, why is there a surge? Dynamic pricing. Why is it when you go to book an aeroplane the day before a flight, it is more expensive? Or maybe if they're looking at people's cookies and everyone's looking, they've announced the race in Italy and everyone's looking at flights to Milan, flight prices go up. Why is that? That's dynamic pricing. They've started doing it on concert tickets now. There's a big furore about, I think, Bob Dylan concert tickets being sold for like £500 a pop. It is the future. It's already been happening. It is the future. There's been furore over Silverstone. One, their website crashed on the first day, which is never, right. And then on the second day, when it was open, people were in the queue for 6 hours. And during that time, despite there being a bottleneck of people trying to access the website, ticket prices were still going up, and on average we're looking at increases of between 150 and around £300-400 per ticket. Cameron, Silverstone are the first out the gate, I think, to do dynamic pricing on their tickets. Thoughts? Oh no, you know what? Yeah, no. For some more context, after a world where we had COVID. They had no one in the stands in 2020. The price of everything is going up. We're in a cost of living crisis. The UK more than any country in the world. No, not more than any, but the inflation here is turning into Mugabe, Zimbabwe levels. Are Silverstone justified in wanting to maximize the revenue that they make from their race? Talk to me.
Well, Nyasha, to your final stanza, of course they're justified. This is capitalism. They want to raise their prices and people are still buying them at the new extortionate prices. Then, of course they can. This is capitalism, and this is what happens, right? To the highest bidder will go the product.
Yeah.
But Nyasha, come on, son. Come on. When you say dynamic pricing, what you're meaning is teeth, right? Teeth, as Mama Cameron would say. Teeth is what we're talking about. What the website goes down and then all of a sudden the prices are like 50% higher. Behave yourself. You know what they should have done? And I think this is where F1 is going at some point. You know about Peter's principle?
No, I don't. Please educate me.
The thought experiment or the thesis that an employer or employee even will get promoted to their level of incompetence ultimately. So you'll keep promoting someone, promoting somebody, and then all of a sudden they're gonna be too high, right? They're going to do something daft and end up getting fired or whatever, reprimanded. This is what they're doing in F1 ultimately. Listen, you're going to keep rising the prices, but then ultimately at some point, people either can't afford them or are going to just protest. I wish that at that Silverstone auction, people would have just gone, what? What, you've increased the what? What, £100 extra, and I've had to wait for you to sort out your website, and this is how you repay us for backing the sport. And again, let's not make a joke about it, Nyasha, because grandstand, listen, I get that we have diehard F1 fans who will turn up at Silverstone irrespective, not least after COVID and on a break and all that good stuff. But don't take the mick out of that circumstance, Silverstone. That's rude and disrespectful. Put some respect on the names of all the diehard fans who are going to rock up to Silverstone irrespective. And that just doesn't feel fair. Doesn't feel fair, Nyasha.
I think this is the first in a long line of proof. I've said this before and I'll say it again. F1 is eating itself right now.
Love it.
It is becoming, if they don't sort it out, the sport is going to become too big for the infrastructure that's in place. And every race we're looking at incidents, fans taking 6-7 hours to get out of the track.
Acceptable.
You grandstand areas, general attendance areas, people are standing on twigs to get in to look at the cars because you can't see over the vents of where it is. They won't let people in the grandstands on Friday either, which is standard on other days of in other Grand Prix. Queues for drinks. You can't take drinks or anything in because they want you to buy stuff. But then when you get there, queues for drinks. You have to queue for tokens, which is an hour and a bit. Then you have to go and queue for the drinks, and that's like another hour. So you're talking about 2 hours to get drinks in sessions that are 2 hours long. Every race, there's an issue. The airport, they were showing the airport to get out, like absolutely, impossible to get out. If F1, and now we've got the Silverstone issue, and we had issues in Barcelona, we had issues in Austria, we had issues in Zandvoort, like F1 is getting so big. I find it strange that they didn't anticipate it would be this big this season. And it doesn't feel like, whilst it is a bit of negligence, it actually feels like a bit of a cash grab at the moment.
A bit, Nyasha. You're going to laugh, mate. Understatement of the century. I mean, come on, big man. Yeah, we can't be doing this. 2022, and they're hosting Grand Prix that feel like Woodstock 1989. This is not third world country settings. Give the people some water. They've paid for their tickets. Why are they having to do this? The car parking is a nonsense. Monza, like you said, was absolutely bonkers. The queue to get into Monza was completely ridiculous. F1, listen, here's what we're not going to do in 2022. We're not going to asset strip our sport. Liberty Media, a media company. You're not a venture capitalist. Don't do it. There is a line beyond which is unacceptable. I mean, we're close. We're close.
Well,
maybe they've overstepped it. Maybe they've overstepped it already, and it's just not on. This is the sport that we love. Don't do it. FOM, Liberty Media. And again, Nyasha, you know what the joke is? This is going to come up at some point in the podcast. Absolutely. It always does. This speaks to the sport blurring into entertainment thing. Keep this thing a sport. Entertain the audiences. Look after them. Provide the proper requisite infrastructure when these guys are paying their big bucks to attend Grand Prix. You owe us and them that much, sorely, FOM. It's not on, Nyasha. Not on. Not having it.
No, don't have it. And the crazy thing is, F1 say that they want 23, 24 Super Bowls, right? That's what they said. That's why they introduced new races. I feel like now we've got the European season out of the way, I feel like there will be less of these types of things because the demand for, well, we'll see at COTA. I'll be interested, but COTA's used to having big crowds, but we'll see at COTA because that is going to be full to the rafters again. But I feel like they've got good infrastructure and logistics, right? Because they had record attendances last year, so it's no big thing for them. But in Brazil, it'd be interesting to see. Again, you feel like they've got the infrastructure. You'd hope they do. Outside of those four, though, Singapore, Japan, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, you would think that the demand is, we're not looking at crowds descending upon them and camping and all of that stuff. So you'd think it'd be better. So they've got time for next season to really sort this out, because if this goes into the next season, on top of the fact that people are going to be paying more money for their tickets, I think even Miami put their ticket prices up, and that's the most expensive Grand Prix of the year. So, I mean, it's
Vegas, etc.
Vegas. It flies in the face of them saying they want to get a younger audience, they want a more diverse audience. But this is just Bernie on steroids, really. This is Bernie with a social media account.
Nyasha, listen to me. When somebody shows you who they really are, you best believe them. Again, in the words of Mama Camera. But listen, Nyasha, I think what you just said there is a bit deep, because you're saying you're believing them. They're saying that they want, if you go to the Super Bowl, you're going to get a halftime show. If you want a hot dog, they're going to be there on tap. Brilliant. North America do this better, like the customer service thing. North America do this better than anybody in the world, right? So how dare you, FOM, try and align yourself to that level of customer service when people are at Monza and they can't even get a bottle of water? Danny Rick's there on the track. You can't even move that. You can't even get that off the track with your marshals. What do we do? Don't do this.
So, but
FOM.
they might say though that they are Formula One media, okay, and it is up to the track with the contracts that they have to ensure adequate infrastructure with the revenue that they make and the contracts that they have to ensure that the fan has adequate everything, right? So they're just going to push it back onto Monza. Your asset stripping thing earlier made me think, and I think they're going to sell.
Well, of course, that's exactly what they're.
I think they're just going to sell at some point.
Build a business. Although, to be fair, they're already massively up, aren't they?
Yeah.
As far as even if you look at the ESPN deal as a microcosm, 5 million was what those rights cost a couple of years back. Now 75 million, so they're already up big time. But I'll just say this, Nyasha, don't trust. That's the wrong word. I wouldn't believe any of the spiel and the shenanigans that the guys at the UFOM are trying to sell us. Again, it's the oldest story in F1 history, broken promises, yeah?
Yeah.
These man, for me, Nyasha, these men are coming worse than Mattia Bonotto, right? Just don't believe them. Don't believe them when they're talking. Don't believe them. Because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't believe you, FOM. Sure. Been lying to us for the longest time, and you're still doing this this third world conditions at Grand Prix where people are paying like hundreds, high triple figure numbers.
If you think about it, over the course of a weekend, flights, accommodation, tickets, food, like drink, transport, we're looking at high 3 figures, 4 figures.
Nyasha, stop it. I'm allergic. I'm allergic to corruption and I'm allergic to teeth. Look at me itching. I can't do it, Nyasha.
Sorry to hear that. Well, look, let's move on to something real quick. Before we get into the game I'd like to play with you. Monza was ominous. The last podcast I did with our friend Jay from Wolfpack, it was a very emotional podcast, right? We had the issue with the safety car. I didn't want to talk about the race that much. I want to get your thoughts. Am I overreacting when I say that I think we might be in for a period of Red Bull domination akin to Mercedes 14 to 20?
I don't think that's an unreasonable statement to make. If you extrapolate what we're seeing at the moment, Nyasha, which is a super dominant RB18. The issue with this team and this car at the moment, if you extrapolate this dominance into future seasons, let's say next season, the season after that, they're not even turning up their car. Nyasha, how are you going to rock up? We all know what time it is. Monza is practically like an IndyCar ring.
Yeah.
It's flat 75, 80% of the time around there, right? How are you going to rock up with a high downforce ring, Nyasha? You tell me, what sort of pace do you have in that car? What sort of alchemy is Adrian Newey dealing with where you can rock up with a high downforce wing and nail the rest of the grid? It's easy still. I don't understand it, Nyasha.
So for those who don't know, right, and some people might not know what time it is on Monza, right? So what is it about Monza that you would want low downforce for, and what does a high downforce setup constitute?
So as a good example, Monaco, a
Yeah,
track that has lots of low speed turns, you want high downforce to go fast around said turns, right?
yeah. Uh, and what's high downforce?
High downforce is that high downforce.
So
I'm talking about
like the wings, right? We're talking about,
exactly.
yeah. Just
So
so front wings. Sorry, for back. So rear wing mostly will be something where there's you'll have it kind of like up, so that there's a lot of drag, a lot of like pressure going down on the car, basically to enable it to go round corners quicker, because you need to go for quick round corners, right? It's a slow speed circuit. Whereas in Monza, I guess you're saying the setup that everyone else had. I think we saw, was it the Aston Martin, which was basically like
no wing,
basically.
And for those guys that are listening, Nyasha's doing the movement with his hands.
Sorry,
where the wing is practically flat, parallel to the ground, right? But basically, no downforce on that wing. If you go back and look at the Red Bull wing, it's not flat. It's perpendicular to the ground. It's doing one of these, which means, again, because Monza is traditionally a low downforce track. Like I said, Nyasha, 75 to 80% of that track, your foot is on the loud pedal. Means full acceleration.
Yeah.
Not 80% of that track. So how then are these dudes rocking up to said track, Monza, with a high downforce wing? And that's fine if you'd expect them. I saw that, Nyasha, and I was like, yeah, you're going to get smashed. You're not that good. You're not that good to be playing these Joker cards yet. You're going to get destroyed. Yet and still, Nyasha, dominant. Absolutely dominant. The quickest car, okay, not necessarily in quali, but the quickest car in that race. They never are, because again, Red Bull, strategic now, God tier levels of operational management and agile thinking and agile work. They're just on a different level. So that's a very long way of me saying, Nyasha, that a Red Bull era over the next couple of years, 2 or 3, is absolutely not beyond the realm of possibility. Absolutely not, mate. The way that they are with Max, Christian, Adrian Newey, mate, good luck beating them. Good luck.
It is ominous. I do say that because we've got stable regulations now until 26, basically. So we've got another 4 seasons, or 3, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 they change. So we've got another 3 seasons of this. It took Red Bull 6 seasons and an engine and not an engine regulation and a rake regulation in the final season to catch up to Mercedes. I think the FIA are gonna have to put something in. They've got to put and look. I'm having this conversation with you because I do want a semblance of balance on this podcast, right? And I see the comments from you guys who support Max Verstappen. Why you watch this podcast, I don't know, but you're there, and I appreciate you watching. And you guys all think we're all just conspiracy theorists. It's like, no, we're not conspiracy theorists. What I would say is, this season compared to last season, when the cars were close, is not great, right? And I'm sure it's fun for Red Bull fans, but it's, a car should not be qualifying 7th, being in 3rd place by lap, being in 2nd place by lap 4. A car should not be in. Where did he start in Spa?
I have no idea. I'm not keeping track.
Wherever he was, and then by lap 1. Sorry, he's in 1st by lap 15. It's not good for the sport. Now,
14th, I think. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that should really. But
wherever he was, right? If the FIA want a product where they don't have to do silly little things with the last lap and bring red flags out just for the sake of the sport, which I don't agree with, by the way, just end down the safety car. If that's what happens, that's what happens. If it happens once or twice a season, then fine. These things happen. What we shouldn't start doing, because what's the line? Okay, now we bring the red flag out if we're a certain number of laps before the end of the race. But what's the I don't understand. Then do we start just That's when you start putting sprinklers on the track to just make rain, bro. Like,
as well.
what are we doing here? Like, do you know what I mean?
Already, Nyasha.
So,
It's a joke.
so anyway, if they want the gap that they've got to everyone else is
Far.
scary.
You heard Lewis. You heard what Lewis had to say. Lewis said after Monza, Lewis said, you know what, the scariest thing, we don't even know how quick they are yet. Engines turned down, high downforce wings at Monza. They're managing reliability out here, Nyasha. We haven't seen them in full anger. Not for ages.
I would say not since Ferrari started ducking out of the races, and they basically, once they got, I reckon, to 50, 60 points in front, I reckon they've just turned the
managing it.
Yeah.
Managing it. It's bonkers, Nyasha, and it's worrying. A new lighter floor incoming for Singapore. It's just, I feel like they're just using Checo Perez at this point to test for next season, and that's not where you want to be, right? If you're one of the other 9 teams on the grid, and you're trying to nail Red Bull, what you don't want is for them to get a durable competitive advantage, because now they can just roll this forward to next year, right? None of the other teams can say, oh, listen.
Well, even if they don't roll it forward to next year, they didn't roll it forward to next year last year, and look what they're doing.
I'm scared.
I'm very scared. I honestly, with my realistic cap on right now, right? Let's just get into the game because this feeds into something else.
Let's go.
Okay. Cameron!
Let's go.
Welcome to a game I like to call Yes or No. I'm going to ask you a question, and you are going to have to tell me yes or no. I can't have maybe. There's no in between. Yes or no. Okay?
No grey areas. Just like it.
Yes.
Michael Massey.
Yeah, you actually do not like grey areas at all. That is something I've learned about you. Cameron, given what we've just discussed, will Max Verstappen break Lewis Hamilton's all-time wins record?
Clarification on the question, if I may, please. You talking Grand Prix or Championship?
Oh, I was actually talking Grand Prix. I don't think he's going to do championships, but Grand Prix.
Oh, flipping Nora, Nyasha. This one's tough. I saw it written down on paper and I thought it'd be a no-brainer. No. No, you know what? It's maybe Nyasha.
What?
I'm gonna say no, and the reason why I'm gonna say no, I think right here's let me give some context here to your assumptions. I think if Max were to race deep into his late 30s, I think he's on for nailing both the championship. Well, probably not the championship is a bit mad to say, but definitely the Grand Prix wins record. But he's already said that he doesn't fancy it much. You guys heard him after last season say, you know what, this was a bit much. It was a bit techie and a bit tense. And if every season's like this, then I don't foresee my career lasting too long, said Max. I think he's here for a good time, not for a long time, Nyasha. And on that basis, I'm going to have to say no, Max Verstappen will not match nor beat Lewis Hamilton's Grand Prix win record.
Do you really think he's not going to stay? I don't believe him when he says that shit. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he's going to be about, unfortunately, for fucking ages.
I think Max is, whatever you want to say about him as a person.
Yeah.
Nyasha, he's a straight shooter, isn't he? Doesn't give a monkey. He's going to tell you as it is, even if it's not the PR answer, even if that's not what people want to hear from him. I think he's a straight shit, and that might change over time.
I think he is learning how to play the press, and I think last season showed that on several occasions when he was saying how much he didn't care if he would win. It won't change his life. He didn't care when he won in Zandvoort. All of this, like, he is playing the press like a bongo. And for me, when he says, "Oh, I don't know if I'll even be around anymore. I just want to do 2 or 3, then I'll go." Like, he is deliberately
creating demand artificially.
Yeah, he's also just like downplaying everything. He seeks to downplay not his achievements per se, but the expectations. I think Max doesn't want grand expectations on him, and he seeks to play. He knows his position in the sport. He knows he's the next up after Lewis, who's still there, by the way, and can still add to that victories total. So I don't buy that. I think he's here for a very long time. Now, the key to this, in my mind, is 2026 and Red Bull powertrains.
Oh.
Can they build their own engine and come out of the blocks with a race-winning engine? I don't think they can on their own. I think if they get Honda on board, which I think they probably will, then I think it's tight. I think it'll be tight. I'm not going to lie. I don't think he'll do it. So I'm going to say no. But I do think he's going to be second of all time. That is clear. To me, I think Max Verstappen is going to surpass Schumacher. What was Schumacher? Schumacher was what? 92?
Oh, his total wins? I have no idea, mate.
I think Schumacher was like 92, something like that. I think he'll surpass 92.
And here's I suppose, if I try and do, again, my devil's advocate brain is working away trying to construct a contrarian argument, Nyasha. My issue is this, right? If we assume that Lewis at most, at tops, has maybe 2 or 3 seasons left, 3, maybe 4 maximum.
Let's say 4 max.
Cool. Max, no pun intended. After Lewis isn't here anymore, after Lewis is retired, who's going to be the Donny on that grid, Nyasha, to tolerate, to stand in those flames, that smoke of Max Verstappen? I'm not seeing it at the moment.
I do think George has got it.
I think George may.
I think I would love to see George in a title fight. I really would. Even just in a race with a car.
George is the suspect most likely. He is. Okay, from what we've seen at the moment on the evidence currently on display, you saw his defense at Barcelona. He's got fangs, hasn't he?
Yes.
He's definitely got teeth.
Yeah.
He won't be. Even if you look at their interaction in the cool-down room at Monza, you could see that George isn't having it from Max like the rest of them. He's not looking to key with Max like Charlie's, as an example. So George is but I don't know, Nyasha. Max is he's not half bad, that fella.
He's not. He's all right. Fans are awful, but he's great. So next question, and I guess it goes to what we were discussing earlier. Where are my questions? Right, here we go. Given Mercedes' issues this season, is Toto Wolff the right man to turn it around at Mercedes?
This is not grey, is it? This one is not grey at all. So look, if we're going to dive deep into the old analogies, Toto Wolff has always struck me as a Creed, Aventus type of Donny, right? Tom Ford settings, Tuscan leather. That's what Toto Wolff wears. And if he's going to turn it around, and by turn it around, I think what we're meaning here is usurp and beat Christian Horner's Red Bull output. Let's remember that Christian Horner, again, if we're using analogies, Christian Horner's not a Tom Ford Tuscan leather Donny, nor Black Orchid, nor Black Orchid even. Christian Horner, let's be truthful, he's a Lynx effect Donny.
Oh yeah, Lynx Africa. Christmas box set.
Yeah.
With the shower gel as well.
Go on then, Nyasha. So I'm going to pose you a question before I chime in my conclusion, which is definitive. for a Lynx Africa Donny, such as Christian Horner?
Yeah.
Does Toto Wolff have the minerals in a cost cap era, 145 million now, when previously you could argue that a lot of success has a lot of Toto and Mercedes success by extension has been driven by the ability to throw money at solutions in a cost cap era, Nyasha? Does Toto Wolff, the dude that you know Toto Wolff to be, have the minerals to take on and usurp a Lynx effect Donny heralded Red Bull?
Good question. You're basically asking me the same question.
Table setting, context.
Do I think that my issue is this? I worry. I had worries about Toto from last season, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, right? Christian knows who he is. Christian's got no qualms in who he is, right?
Lynx effect.
Like
Lynx.
Toto Wolff had to come out of his comfort shell last year, and I don't think he was comfortable with that. Toto Wolff also had to. I think we got out. I think the decision to not upgrade the car, other than the Silverstone upgrade.
Oh my gosh,
and then put everything into this car, and like this is what they've produced. And the fact that they still don't know what is wrong with that car. We're in September and they're saying they don't know the design concept for next year. I am not confident. So in answer to your question, based on the evidence that I'm seeing around this team right now, might I also say, as a team, when Lewis and Inshallah doesn't work, it looks like a fucking clown outfit. So,
she said, Inshallah.
Respectfully. So
good.
So if I'm going to be honest, I'm not. If we're in the Wenger out analogy,
you nailed it.
I am in like currently. I'm in, let's say,
2017.
I'm in 2016. Yeah? So we've just won 2 FA Cups. The pressure's built. We've lost out on the league by a few points. He could have bought a striker. He didn't. But
he missed out on Cristiano, aka Max Verstappen.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean? We still win the odd cup here and there. Like, it's not all gone to shit yet. We're not in 2018, but we're in 2016, which means what? 2 seasons. And I think I'm going to give Toto until the end of these regulations. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to give Toto to the end of Lewis Hamilton's contract. I don't think Mercedes have it in them. He's a shareholder. I don't think they have it in them. So how do you get rid of him? And I don't think it all falls on him, right? But he is the team principal. Someone in that design department has got to go. I don't know what they're doing in the design department, in the wind tunnel department, because the wind tunnel is not, whatever they put through the wind tunnel, it's not correlating to what they do in the track. The sim hasn't been working since last season because whatever they're doing in the sim wasn't correlating to setups last season. That's why Lewis has had to start doing sim work. The whole team, I'm not going to lie, if we're stepping back and I'm taking off my Lewis hat, I'm looking at the team he's driving for, I've not been happy with this team for a minute. And in answer to your question, I don't know. The fact that they don't, and again, this could just be press and whatever, But the way they fired up that engine last year in December, as like a hey, look, we've already fired up the engine. All that work, all that no upgrade shit we done in 21. Don't worry, guys. The engine's already upgraded, and it's the worst engine. We've got worse engine than our customer teams. I don't
Mad.
know.
Nasha, what's going on, mate?
Straight line speed worse than our customer teams. Honestly, that car and the fact that those two are bringing it home in fourth and fifth,
Testament to them. Absolutely.
it's very much testament to I think the quality of both drivers. But it's sorry, I just went off at you there, but I don't think I've said that all season.
Speak the gospel, Nasha. No, drop it like it's hot. Absolutely. No, this is what we're dealing with. For the listen, what have you done for me lately, Janet Jackson? Toto Wolff hasn't done a lot for me lately. I still wake up having nightmares, Nasha, I'll be honest. Hearing Toto at Monza talking about, oh, we'll abide by whatever the stewards say. What are you talking about? Max Verstappen could have ended very, very badly for Sir Lewis Hamilton. And again, switch back a couple Grand Prix only. That same season, by the way, Max Verstappen, his charger links effect Donny Christian Horner is going full throttle talking all type of assassination talk with Sir Lewis Hamilton. And there you go. This is why they're chalk and cheese, Nasha. This is what I'm saying. If you have a dominant package, Toto is the guy to steer that ship. Absolutely. But it's cost cap era, 145 million. No longer can Mercedes Petronas AMG throw money at problems ad infinitum. You need a bit of guile and you need a bit of savvy, a bit of street smarts. And who, if not the links effect Donny on the grid in Christian Horner, who embodies that type of attitude better than Christian and Red Bull? Sadly,
I mean, look, let's not make out like Red Bull are paupers, okay? They've just signed a $500 million deal with Oracle. They are probably commercially the best team on the grid, I would say. Maybe them. McLaren seem to have endorsements coming out of their eyeballs. Obviously, Mercedes, make a lot of money commercially purely because of the fact that they have Lewis and they were the best team. Sorry.
But Nash, I was just going to say that's not what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying Mercedes. I'm not saying that Mercedes are poor. I'm just saying in a cost cap era.
Allocation of resources, right? And look at the allocation of resources that, like I said, happened last year with this season on the horizon. And they were so bullish about it. And you know what? They've gone for this no side pod thing, which we all know it looks beautiful and it should be right. And look, we could be sat here next season if they figure it out and being say, look, how silly were we doubting Toto, right? The right thing was to stay on that path. But you know what's mad? You know what I just remembered? They didn't even turn up with the fucking car in the first test. It was a different car in the first test.
How prepared were we really?
Right? So you're saying, oh, we had that car and that was just to test against this car. That car was okay. That car was all right. And we could have developed that car. Then we've got this car and we're so stuck to this philosophy, but we could have had like a whole testing period to test that particular car and we didn't. And we've gone into a season, we've snatched a podium out of nowhere in the first race and then the pain starts.
Nasha, you know what? I'll say this to you, bruv. The best thing that I've heard you say on this podcast for ages, incidentally, because I know you didn't mean it like this, they're shareholders. Toto Wolff is a shareholder to the core, right? And I'm not meaning that in a good way. He's a shareholder. What you need is a proper racing man at the moment, because no longer is this domination. 8 times Constructors' Championship. Those days are gone. We're in post Sir Alex Ferguson era, Man United. And the requisite set of skills to turn that around then is very different from an 8 times cut. Like, you're not steering a ship now. This
Yeah.
needs some root
It's just
and branch.
crisis management.
DEFCON 5, Nyasha, this is a root and branch change
Well,
that's required here. And I'm not sure Toto, in his current guys at least, Nyasha is that guy, not with Lynx Effect, Donny Christian Horner at the other team.
How much do you reckon the poaching and Red Bull have done has hurt them?
The poaching that Red Bull have done of Mercedes employees for the avoidance of doubt.
Yeah. Because Toto always denies it and says, look, they tried to poach everyone. I think they took 15 or whatever, however many.
I heard it was much more than that.
Oh, really?
I heard it was high, like, I feel like the number that's coming in my memory is like 50 odd. Yeah. Mate, it has to have an effect, Nyasha. Yeah. Again, to quantify it is like semantics. We'll never be able to do that, not definitively. But of course it had an effect. Of course it must have. Why Red Bull, Nyasha, let's have it right. Red Bull are gangsters out here. That's what they are.
I wouldn't say they're gangsters.
They
you know what?
They race hard, Nyasha.
Yeah, no.
They race hard, and they're going to push everything. If the line is here for the rules, depending on which time you're looking at them, they might be here sometime. They're always going to push. I wouldn't say they're gangsters.
What they are street smart.
That's the
and Mercedes are boarding school.
Oh,
like, do you know what I mean? Eton. And then you drop them in like Lewisham for the evening and like go home 3:00 at night. Like
the prosecution rests. No further questions.
That's what it, and that's what it feels like. And it felt like that all of last season. With the way that Toto, they were trying to take the high road, by doing that, you know what they did? They didn't protect Lewis. And Wheatley had Massey in his fucking pocket. And ultimately, look what happened. Look, let's not get into that. I want to get off Mercedes because I will get very mad. I will say one other thing. Toto, you say that there's a culture of no blame at Mercedes. Someone needs to start getting blamed. Okay? It needs to be someone's fault at some point. I hope there's a high amount of accountability. Right. You know what? The first 2 questions I put on there, honestly, I don't give a fuck about. But I'm going to ask you one more question. Will Lando Norris ever win a title at McLaren?
Oh, it was such a good question until the last 2 words. Nyasha, at McLaren.
Okay, but no, because don't worry, I'm teeing you up.
There is the pertinent phrase. Unfortunately, at McLaren, I think Lando Norris has the potential. His glass ceiling, his potential is very, very high. He's a brilliant driver. Again, my guy Peter Windsor's always talking about the subtlety of his inputs as far as steering and the accelerator, his racing line, his genius. He's God tier as far as an F1 driver. But at McLaren, Nyasha, mate, I know Zach Brown is trying to make moves and he's got 1,000,001 junior drivers signed. He's like, all that good stuff. Oscar Piastri there next season. Yeah, he's moving. He's making the right moves. But Nyasha, I honestly can't. Not currently. Not in that McLaren outfit. As it stands, I can't see it, mate. Genuinely.
Where does he go? To win a title, basically. I knew that was going to happen. I knew you were going to say no, and it is unless 2026. You know what? All I'm going to say is this. Well, I think we were blessed. And look, I'm only talking about what I can remember as an F1 fan, right? I can't remember the regulation changes between when I started watching in 96 and basically pre-2009. I can't remember what regulation changes were there, right? And I'm not studied enough, okay? I'm happy to admit that, okay? I remember races, I remember championships, but I don't remember the technical side of things. What I will say is this. Sorry, this is my little Arsene Wenger.
Let's go.
Sorry, just for the benefit of those on the podcast, I just picked up my little Arsene Wenger doll. He looks over me every day when I work. I love you.
Loyal to the core. Love
Go
it.
in. I love that guy. Papa, if you can hear me.
Hashtag Wenger in.
Always. No, you had to go. So I think people look at 2009, and then I think people look at, I guess, the fact that Red Bull were able to then, from after 2009 and 2010 to 13, kind of build a car and come out of the shadows and be a relatively new outfit, although obviously they bought Jaguar and whatever. And then they look at that, and then they look at 2014 with Mercedes, and I think everyone just thinks that a team can come out of nowhere with a regulation change, but that's not really what happens, right?
Not normally.
No. And normally what happens is, instead of when there is a redistribution of wealth, it's not, the inequality gets greater, as we've seen this season. And I just cannot see a situation where McLaren are fast enough. I can't see a situation where Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull,
that's it,
all drop the ball so much that McLaren win the title. Now, with that being said, and I think we can both agree on that, will Lando Norris ever win a world championship?
Oh, anywhere. Oh, we're getting to the... But he needs to make some decisions, doesn't he, about his life? He's currently in a long-term contract at McLaren.
Death row.
Well, yeah.
I know, to be fair, I actually argued against it being a death row contract, right? Because where are you going to go? But one thing that might happen is, to use an analogy, sometimes long contracts, they become outdated very quickly. And a 5-year contract, look, 20 mil a year. Is it 20 mil a year?
I think so.
Something around that seems nice right about now. But in 2-3 years' time, when George gets a new contract, when Charles gets a new contract, when Max inevitably gets an extension on whatever extension he's put on, that contract, new drivers getting contracts everywhere, that contract is going to look paltry.
Steph Curry contract.
Yes.
Steph Curry. Exactly that Steph Curry contract.
I'd love to discuss that. We'll do that on verbal reasoning.
Let's go.
For those who don't know, Steph Curry signed a $1 billion lifetime contract that completely, I think, is there no equity in that deal?
I don't know, I
don't think there is. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, but where does Lando go?
He needs, what time it is.
What seat is available for him ever?
Bloody Norma, framed in those terms, Nyasha. None, actually. And the joke is, I think I said it at the start of the season, post the implementation of new rules and regs, if I'm an F1 driver, there's only one place I want to be, Nyasha, and that's in the Adrian Newey car. Anywhere else isn't worth it, mate. You want to sit down and you want to wait till I'm not even ramping with that. No take backs. Take backs.
Engineering's been on the back foot for like 7 years before this year. He wouldn't have won last year. And also there was the rake regulations, which were deliberately to slow down Mercedes. So
allow me to.
But I'll give you the ground effect. If you were specifically to say to me, there's going to be a ground effect regulation, who do I want whose car do I want to be in? Of course, then I
wouldn't even say I think new regulations, paradigm shift-esque regulations. Give me the Adrian Newey vehicle. If you wanna superimpose the ground effects, then take what I said originally and to the power of 5. Like, mate, I don't know. So I think Lando wants to get himself a decent manager. And he wants to stay very close to Checo Perez.
Yeah.
Have buy him a coffee, a cheeky Starbucks. What's the movement, Checo? Yeah. How's your family life? Yeah. Like what's the age of retirement potentially that you're that you're thinking of, your future goals and aspirations. Needs to be having these conversations, man, because I think that if Lando has, and he does, aspirations of winning a championship before he calls it quits. He's a young man still, but get himself in that Red Bull car is what Eddie's did, or a Silver Arrows car. If Toto Wolff, not to renege on what we've just said, but if Toto Wolff can turn it round, again, fingers crossed, touch wood, hopefully he can, then I suppose the Silver Arrows is a decent second choice for Lando Norris, but Red Bull pole position, mate, every day, all day.
I think George and Lando is the biggest recipe for disaster since Nico and Lewis. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't want him anywhere near George. I don't. Those two are chalk and cheese, and the passive aggressiveness that those two would have towards each other. George doesn't want that clown in his team, respectfully. Like. No, he's not a clown, to be fair. Like George, the thing is with George, George would be, I think in his mind, he would feel like he would be the alpha. Anyone coming into that team, it would be his team, right? I think if you bring Lando in, Lando's more popular than George. Lando is the media darling. Lando is very fucking quick. I don't think he's quicker than George, if you want me to be honest. I'm gonna put it out there. I think George has got more about him than Lando, and I think that's because he's got more up here. I think George is Prost, Lando is Senna. If and I don't say that but I think Prost is, because of his personality.
He's the professor.
I think he's grossly underrated.
Oh, God, Prost is top 3. Absolutely. I place him above Senna every single day of the week.
Me too, right? I love Senna for who he was and his spirit. People need to look at Prost's fucking teammate list. Yeah? It's not a joke. That guy ran the gauntlet of let me get it up right now, yeah?
Point collector. Just killed it. If you want to know about Alain Prost, not to go off on this mad tangent, if you listen to the stories, again, he would maximize every advantage he could, right? There's a story where he started putting soft compound tires on the left, hard compound on the right 2 tires. And he found that it was quicker, Nyasha, and until the FIA at the time, whatever their name was, found out, he was nailing 1 second advantage on the rest of the grid, soft on the left, hard on the right. Nyasha, take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Prost was a very dangerous driver. I think though, Nyasha, to bring it back, I think your analogy does Lando a little bit of a disservice.
Oh, okay.
I think he's quite cerebral. Don't let the cute countenance and laugh and the joke and the bouncing ball in the fet. Don't let Sochi. No, I'm not coming in. Leave me out. I
think he's being. I thought he got hung out to dry, ironically, in the wet, by his team, who should have just called him in. And they didn't have the balls to call him in. They let a guy. If I'm going for my first win. I think I read somewhere that he was 30 seconds up on P3, by the way. Like, that drive was incredible. That whole weekend
McLaren.
It was the coronation of Lando Norris, right? We were looking at, let's not fuck around, yeah? 2021, was it 2020? When did...
Go on.
Because 2020 he got podiums as well. Yeah, he got a podium in Austria, didn't he? And he got a podium. I think so. Yeah, because that's when we came back after COVID.
Yeah.
So we were starting to see it in 2020.
Mate, he's good.
But 2021, remember Lewis was behind him saying, "Wow, this guy is good.
He's good."
Like, look, whatever you think of Lando Norris as a person, right? I understand that. I am not going to in any way put a damper on however people feel about Lando as a person. He said some suspect stuff, right? I understand and I get it, especially if you're a Lewis fan and you don't like Lando. So let me put that out there, because the last time I put that out there, I got told off, and I take that telling off to heart. and I've learned. But I think as a driver, I think George is better. But let's not forget that last season, until Sochi, he was by a clear distance the third best driver on the grid. And we were looking at a superstar in the making. And Sochi was supposed to be, I mean, he would have won in Monza if the team hadn't like bottled out of just letting him race Daniel Ricciardo. And he probably would have won Sochi as well if the team hadn't bottled bringing him in. So I don't, trust me, I know about Lando's talent. I do know about Lando's talent. I do. And to your point about him being cerebral, I do see it. But I think George has shown this season that guy. That guy, yeah.
He's a killer. No, he's a killer. And you only need to watch the way he moved in F2, right? Jack, I always forget which one. Jack Aitken. The move up the inside again, like reminiscent of Max at his worst, right? He had no place, dive bombing up the inside of Aitken. He's absolutely a killer, George. Nobody's second driver ever. It's not in his fabric. Yeah. Absolutely goes diametrically against his fundamental constitution. Everything that he is as a driver. But I don't know. It's not an open and shut case, Johnson. If we're comparing Lando Norris and George Russell, Russell.
Do you think they could work in the same team?
Negative. So this is it. Nyasha, you've nailed it, and I get upset with the community talking about, anytime I talk about, get a bit pragmatic about the line of least resistance from now to a driver's championship for Mercedes. What it doesn't look like, Nyasha, again, meritocracy, the driver's championship needs to be all the best drivers in the world anyway, so just put them. No. History tells you, anytime that you have two alphas in a car, Lewis, Alonso 2007, McLaren, Senna and Prost, had they not had that massive advantage, if you don't have a dominant car, which Mercedes do not have going into 2023, what you can't afford to do is have both your alpha drivers taking points off of each other. That's what you can't do. I'd love to see it would make for a brilliant spectacle, fantastic entertainment. But as a Mercedes fan, wherever my cap is, if I put that one on for a second, you don't need two alphas in that car. George Russell needs a Checo Perez. That's what he needs. Whatever Checo Perez is, the dude that steps up when times are hard to block off Sir Lewis at Abu Dhabi in a short-fueled car. That's what you need, right? Out of your second driver.
He had an engine issue. Okay,
he
had a How dare you imply that Red Bull were gonna cause a safety car no matter what?
They race hard. So Checo, remember, didn't cause the safety car.
No, he did work, but they wanted
short fueled though. No, that's why they brought him in, because they would have got a big. If they'd have found out that he was short fueled, but why did they just park him up in the pits if he wasn't short fueled? What was wrong with his car?
He had an issue. We actually never found out, did we? Because too distracted by.
There it is.
But look, before I get super mad again. Cameron, this has been a pleasure.
Oh, you're a legend.
Where can people find you and your incredible merch? Congrats on the opening of the merch store.
Oh, mate, thank you. So I am Cameron F1 YT on Twitter, Cameron F1 on YouTube, and the Cameron F1 store is where you can buy some of this Cameron F1 labeled branded merch. But I appreciate you as always. So it's been fun.
I think that's one of my favorite podcasts I've done.
Mate, it's been fun.
I could do that all night,
I could talk, mate. Get Tan down here and we can chop it up again. I would go on another 90 minutes about F1. And it's not even been a hot week in the news cycle.
It's not like you like to say, grown and sexy. We don't need, don't need that. You don't need drama, okay? Because we love the sport. We'll dissect it for you. Look, and I hope you guys have enjoyed that. Make sure you like and subscribe in the video, and make sure you are following. Make sure you're rating us on Apple. And guys, I love you. Thanks for selling out the event. The new merch drop is coming in October, and we've also got Christmas range coming out. We've got, don't forget, we're on Twitch. The Twitch content starts back up this week. Make sure you look out for that. We've got some really cool content on there. So yes, guys, I'm going to go enjoy myself. Thank you so much, Cameron. Absolute pleasure. Remember, no matter what happens, keep it on the black stuff. Goodbye. Take care.